Hi guys, we're going to go ahead. We're going to look at how to write a conclusion paragraph. Okay. So when you write your conclusion, you know that this is the very end of your essay. You're tying up loose ends. You're restating different pieces from what you have written so that your readers can be left with the overall idea from what you had written. Okay. So when you go to write your conclusion paragraph, you want to start with a transition word that shows that you are going to be moving to the end. Don't use in conclusion or to conclude. Okay, that's really basic, and you guys are experienced writers. So you could use things such as overall, in the end, in the final analysis of, okay, anything like that. And again, you have the hyperlink or you have the chart, which will tell you different concluding words. Okay. So after you state your concluding word or transitional word, you want to go ahead and you want to restate your thesis. Okay. You're starting in this inverted triangle again, just how we did for the intro, but this way is going to be this normal triangle. So you want to start really specific up at the top, okay? You're still focused on your essay. You still want the readers to understand what you have just talked about, okay? And it says restate the thesis, use fresh words. So don't just copy and paste what you had, but instead find a new way to say this. Maybe use some synonyms. Then after you do that, answer the so what. What's the bigger purpose in writing this essay? Why did you write this? Was it to show readers how dialogue can help move the story forward? Was it to show a comparison and contrast between two different characters or two writing methods? Was it to show how different authors use different forms of irony to develop the theme? Okay, what was the bigger purpose with it? Then you want to give a lingering thought. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's look at our restating of the thesis. So, your restatement of the thesis should be in new, fresh words. You don't want to copy and paste the exact one. Okay. Plus, it's going to make it boring for your reader. Okay. Instead, go ahead and think about what you talked about in the first body and the second body, and then what can you draw a conclusion from with that? Okay. You know that in your first body, you talked about this one type of irony, which you probably mentioned in your thesis. In body two, you talked about the second type of irony, which you also mentioned in your thesis. And then what can you conclude about that? What can you say about the use of irony? Did it help develop the theme? Did it help develop the characters? Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and look at the so what. Again, why does it matter? You want to leave behind the novel, you want to restate what you are using, okay, or the topic and the issue. And then again, explain the bigger reason. So you could say in the short story, blank, the author uses the idea of blank to do this, and it shows us that blank, okay? Again, why should the reader care? And then finally, you have your lasting ideas. Okay. This should not be a question. Don't ever use a question at the very end. Okay. Instead, you want to write something that's either going to leave the reader in agreement to what you have said and really satisfied that they read this, or you could go ahead and you could leave your reader wondering what they could do. Okay. What should they do to relate to your writing that you just did. Okay. You could also use a quote that connects to the idea, but again, that kind of relates more to what your hook would be. So if you choose to use a quote that could go ahead and connect these ideas, don't use a quote if you use it for your hook. And if you use that quote as your hook, find a different quote. Okay. So now we have a sample. We went ahead, we copied our original thesis here so that we could go ahead and model what we should have. So it says, ultimately, Hearst uses the complicated relationship between Doodle and brother to show that love always contains some drop of poison. So that was our thesis, okay? So now we're going to restate our thesis. When one considers the story's elements of foreshadowing and symbolic use of various shades of red, it is clear that resentment is a common side effect of love. Okay. So we know that there's this complicated relationship. And what do they say? They say resentment. Okay. Which is, again, a complicated relationship. And then we have The idea that love always contains some drop of poison. Well, what is that poison that we have? We know that it's, again, this resentment and effect of love. And how is that developed? Through the complicated relationship using of foreshadowing and symbolism. Okay. Then we answer the so what. Every child is taught that hate is the opposite of love. Yet Hurst reveals that those two feelings are actually part of the same powerful emotion. Okay. What's the bigger purpose in writing? To show that Hurst reveals this. The Hurst reveals that these two feelings help connect to the powerful emotion. Then you have your lingering thought. Just as there can be no light without darkness, the human's heart can't help but create some bitterness as it seeks the sweetness of love. Again, you're leaving your reader with that interesting thought. What's the interesting thought? That even though you have lightness, there's also darkness, and vice versa. Okay. And that's how you're going to go ahead and write up your concluding paragraph.